My name is Jeff Epstein. It is Sunday, March 1st, and I'm interviewing Israel Hartman for the One Story at a Time project, Viva, Shalom, celebrating Latin American Jews in Dallas. Good afternoon, Israel Hartman. Would you tell us where you are from originally?
I grew up in Costa Rica.
Can you tell us a little bit about how your family got to Costa Rica?
Well, I was very fortunate to be able to interview my grandfather before he died. And he used to come from a very small shtetl in Poland. He saw the writing on the wall, the degree of anti-Semitism at the time. And as a very young boy, he was only 13 when he left, he took the first ship that he could that was coming to America. And for him, I mean, it's not as if he had Google or a travel agency. America was from anywhere from the North Pole to the South Pole. And the ship made a stop in Costa Rica. That port looked as good as any he had ever seen, and he just stepped out. You know, at a very young age, I can't imagine, you know, what it was like. And that's how he ended in Costa Rica.
Do you know about what year this was?
This was before the war. I don't know the exact year. Actually, it was at the beginning of, you know, we cannot say the beginning of the anti-Semitism because there has always been anti-Semitism in Europe, especially in Poland. But it was before World War II.
And he was traveling by himself?
He traveled by himself. Years later, he brought his brother, and that's pretty much the history of the Jews. The Jews in Costa Rica. One brought another one, and a neighbor told a neighbor, and a cousin told a cousin, and you know, there was most of the Jews initially in Costa Rica were from Poland.
And how did your father meet your mother?
My father, well, it was a very small Jewish community, and everybody knew each other. And my father was also, he was actually specializing in medicine. He was a gynecologist, and the families knew each other, and they got married.
And do you have siblings as well?
Yeah, my brother is still in Costa Rica. I have a brother who lives in Israel, and I have a sister who lives in Houston.
Tell us about your life growing up in Costa Rica.
I consider myself very fortunate because Costa Rica was a very simple place and a very beautiful place, a lot of nature, and which I love, a lot of love for nature, understanding on the importance of preserving our resources, our natural resources. In the Jewish community, it was a very small, close Jewish community. As I mentioned before, most of the founders were from Poland, and they practiced Orthodox Judaism, even though none of us were Orthodox. So it was kind of a modern Orthodox. My grandfather used to walk to the shul. We used to have Shabbat dinners every Shabbat, but we were not really religious. We just were part of this Orthodox Polish community.
You said your grandfather used to walk to the shul, but you said your father was the first one to come here?
No.
To Costa Rica?
No. My father never came here. I came here myself.
No, I'm sorry, to Costa Rica.
My grandfather came to Costa Rica, and my father was born in Costa Rica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your memories of growing up in Costa Rica, was it a very vibrant Jewish upbringing?
Very, yes. I attended a Jewish school. We went to the shul We had a Jewish youth organization that I attended. I learned Hebrew at school. It was a very, very good Jewish education.
Did you get married in Costa Rica or after you moved?
I got married in Costa Rica.
And how did you meet your wife?
Well, we grew up together.
Okay.
I would say I met her in kindergarten.
Oh, wow. And where did you go to medical school?
In Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica as well.
Yeah.
Now, how and why did you make the decision to leave Costa Rica?
Well, after I finished medical school, or before finishing medical school, I wanted to better myself. Here in the States, we have the best postgraduate program in medicine, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do.
Now, once you made the decision to leave, what did other people in your family think about that?
It's actually very common. A lot of Costa Rican Jewish families, who want to go for postgraduate education, they go abroad. A lot of them end here in the United States. Some other ones go to South America or Europe.
Did you end up moving directly to Dallas, or were there any other stops in between?
No, there were several stops. My first stop was in Florida. My grandfather used to have an apartment in Miami, and I used that as my first stop to study for my boards. Then I came to Dallas. There was an endocrinologist here in Dallas that offered me a job initially before starting my specialty. Then I went to Indiana University in Indianapolis to do my internal medicine specialty. And then I came back to Dallas to do my endocrine specialty at UT Southwestern in Dallas.
Now, at this point, you said you were already married. Did you also have children by then?
Yes, we were the parents of triplets. 3 girls who, by the way, came to the JCC a lot, to all the camps when they were growing up, and to kindergarten initially. They came here to JCC in Dallas.
Wow. So you came to Dallas in what year?
Permanently to stay 1989.
And you've been here ever since?
Yeah.
And did you have any other family here, or were you the first of your family to move to Dallas?
We were the first.
So, had you been to the United States before your first trip when you moved to Miami?
Yes. As I mentioned, my grandfather used to own an apartment in Miami. We used to vacation there a lot.
So, did you have any kinds of issues adjusting to life in the United States?
Well, not adjusting to life in the sense that it was something different. It was difficult. We were starting. I had triplet babies. I was gone a lot working at the university, as is customary when you're starting. My wife had to stay home with the babies. It was not easy, but I don't regret any moment of it. It was the right decision.
Did you get very involved in the Jewish community when you first moved here?
No, I didn't. I didn't have time to do that. I was very busy. My specialty requires that you work hard, and when I was not working at the university, I had 3 little girls, so I used to do extra work a lot, what we call moonlighting. So I used to work in the emergency rooms all over the place. So no, I didn't have time to. I wish I had, but I didn't have time to get too involved.
But you said your wife and daughters would spend time at the Jewish
Oh,
Community
yeah,
Center.
yeah, they were here all the time.
They were here
Yes.
quite a bit. Did they get involved in other Jewish activities? Do you remember?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Okay. Since then, as you've lived here for now 30 years, have you gotten involved in the Jewish community in other ways?
We are members of the JCC. We attend the Federation activities. We have a lot of friends in the Jewish community. To that extent, I never took a leadership position, if that's what you're asking, in the Jewish community. But yeah, we're involved. We're very involved.
Do you remember any differences, if any, between Jewish customs here and when you grew up in Costa Rica?
It's interesting that you asked that. We were a very homogeneous group of Jews in Costa Rica when we were growing up. We were Ashkenazis with Polish roots who were Orthodox that were not Orthodox. And we came here, and it was a shock to see all the different sizes and flavors of Jewish communities that you have here. And we didn't really know how to define ourselves because when you used to go to the shul, the prayers were, in the Orthodox tradition in Costa Rica, but we were not Orthodox, so we went to Orthodox shuls, and it was the same prayers, the same sidurim, the same customs, but the people in the Orthodox shul were not like us. I mean, we were not Shomer Shabbat, and we didn't, we were not 100% kosher, and so there was a discrepancy between the shul and the traditions. We went to the Reform shul, and the people were like us in the sense of customs and traditions, but the prayers were different, and the sidurim were different, and so we didn't really know where was our best fit. And finally, we decided that the Reform shul was our best fit, since we were not Shomer Shabbat, and actually, we used to go to the shul only occasionally and for the big holidays, and that was our best fit.
Are there any foods you remember, Jewish-themed foods you remember as a child
A lot
in Costa Rica?
I mean, our religion wouldn't be a religion without food, and is basically, the European Polish foods, that my grandmother, my aunt used to cook. It was delicious.
Any particular ones were your favorite?
I remember my grandmother used to make excellent Russian soup, and as a doctor and endocrinologist, I wouldn't recommend anybody to eat that. It had probably 5,000 calories per serving, full of fat, but it was delicious.
Now, how important was Israel to you growing up in Costa Rica?
Well, it was very important. Actually, before coming to America, I went to Israel, and I served in the Israeli army. We grew up in a very Zionist environment. It makes sense. My grandparents survived the Holocaust because they left Europe in time, and I grew up being 100% convinced that if we had the state of Israel, the Holocaust wouldn't have happened at the time. The reason why we had the Holocaust is because the Jews didn't have anywhere to go. They were rejected even here in America. We were rejected. My grandfather was lucky. He had a vision. He was a visionary, and he saved himself. So, and I am 100% convinced that if we didn't have the state of Israel today, we would have had another Holocaust by now.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the chronology. You said you served in the Israeli army.
Yeah.
At what point in your life was that?
When I finished high school, I went to Israel, and I joined the army.
And how long were you living in Israel?
3 years.
And 3 years, and you served in the army.
Yeah.
And what did you do in the army?
I was a paratrooper.
Paratrooper there.
Yeah.
And then after you finished,
I went back to Costa Rica and went to medical school.
and that's when you went on to medical
Yeah.
school. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So are there any traditions that you grew up with Costa Rica that you have seen it important that your daughters continue as they go into adulthood?
Well, I think that it's important to recognize that we're Jews. I'm not a religious person. I believe in God. I believe in tradition. But I think that it's important for them to recognize the importance of Judaism, our heritage, our history, for them to know their roots. And it's important for me to educate them that there is a God, and to teach them right from wrong. And I think that that's the most important thing that I can teach as a parent.
Great. Well, thank you very much today for coming and sharing your story with us. I'd like to give you a moment now if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Well, I think that I would like to add that I have been very lucky. I grew up in Costa Rica. I have seen the best of both worlds. Costa Rica was a great place to grow up. I chose the best state there is, Texas. We love it here, and I don't see myself living anywhere else. So I have made very good decisions. Coming here to Texas was one of them. Texas has been very, very good for me and my family. It gave me an education, gave my daughters an education and opportunity to succeed in life, and for that I'm very grateful.
Well, thank you again for coming here and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you.